Hello everybody and welcome to Daytona for the next round of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series here on Thursday night. Welcome to RaceSpotTV and the lights of Daytona as well. January may well have passed us by a couple of months ago now, where all of the Daytona racing particularly and traditionally happens, but here early in the season we are returning again for two more races. A sprint race followed by a bit of a longer race to come off the back of what 2 weeks ago was a very exciting start to the season. I'm Ian O'Leary alongside Cam Roger for this RaceSpotTV broadcast, produced of course as always by Hugo Louise. It's good to be back on the GT3 series, Cam. 50 drivers again ready for round 3 and 4.
Yeah, this one's going to be a bit of carnage in the first couple of corners, I'm sure, but I can't wait to see how that one unfolds. But of course, in Hockenheim, we had the rain causing carnage, absolute carnage. Cars flying off left, right, and centre. And just when you think you're going to get a nice, clean race, things even happened towards the end. So many cars out there on the track, as you say, 50 plus cars, 60 odd signed up to the season, and it's quite a short one as well, just 5 rounds. So plenty, or not plenty of time, I should say, to get those points on the board. So for those who did last time out, they're going to have a big advantage coming to this round.
And there were plenty of drivers who had a decent round, although two certainly stand above the rest. The two race winners from Hockenheim, Marcus Beifeld, who's currently leading the standings, and Lucas Lindqvist, who took pole and the first win of the season to go with it as well. Joost Stroberg put in a couple of decent performances to get third at Arnold Hagström Viggersjö, and then there's a bit of a further gap back to Eric Blixt. Just outside the top 5 is Oliver Bohlin, with Adam Lundqvist and Daniel Holmer tied on 43 points. Frederick Dallander and Edwin Forsund round out the top 10 of the drivers' standings. As we mentioned, a whopping 42 drivers scored at least 1 point over the course of the day. Not everybody gets points in this series, unlike the NASCAR series we do every other week on Thursday nights here. You do have to work for your points a little bit harder on this series. In the team standings, by the way, the Street Trends Sim Racing Junior team are leading the way by 29 points at Sim Race Sweden Esports. That team, by the way, is being spearheaded by Marcus Beifeld, who of course has got the most points of anybody, and Lucas Pettersson as well, who is tied 11th going into this round in the standings, just outside of our top 10. Here is Lucas Lindqvist, though, pole sitter from Hockenheim. At the moment, he's got 0.2 of a second over the rest of the field, and that's actually a reversal of what he had in practice. He wasn't the fastest man in practice, but he's turning it on initially in this qualifying session. He makes his way in towards the bus stop chicane in the Lamborghini that is not very well picked, to be honest, by drivers this season. But he's making it work very well, is Lucas Lindqvist, as we so often see from him. Just under 10 minutes to go in this session, plenty of time, and I can tell you that already 38 drivers have gotten a time on the board. There are plenty others, though, who are still out there and trying to set lap times for the first time. There's Henrik Lindhoff in second place in the number 8 car, the BMW. looking to utilise that straight line speed a little bit, just like the Lamborghini is doing. They're both decent in a straight line, although they're not absolutely world-beating. Lindhoff goes with another 44.9. That is not going to be any quicker from him, but Marcus Byfeld does go quicker. We've got the same two again, Lindqvist and Byfeld, 1 and 2.
And the top three have a pretty decent gap. The Holmer's just jumped up, Oliver Bohlin as well. Some laps come in, but this mid-pack is so close. So for those who are going to be around, P15, P20 or so towards the mid-end of the points, there's just a couple of tenths between quite a few drivers there. So very important to get your laps in. Of course, you're going to see that we are in the floodlit conditions for the first race. We will be back into the afternoon sunshine for the feature race, but at least for the sprint one, we are going to be seeing some cooler temperatures, and that will keep the drivers happy for sure as they work their way through the second part of this qualifying session. Byfeld trying to improve his time, just 1/10 he needs, but it's so difficult around here because really you've only done about half of the lap by this stage, but the lap's almost done. You've just got the bus stop chicane to worry about in the next about 4 kilometers.
In sim at the moment, by the way, it's just about 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the sim, so that's why you're seeing the darkness fall across this circuit. You referenced the rain as well that we had 2 weeks ago. Now, the chance of rain is present again. It is there's a 2% chance that it was going to rain in this session and a 1% chance in the next race. It is very unlikely, but it's just worth referencing that there is a very narrow chance of rain, that we could see it rear its head again compared to the Hockenheim ring, where we have race 2 underwater to start with, and race 1 in the complete dry. Marcus Byfeld now running up towards the line again. Lucas Lindqvist has decided to come back to pit lane briefly and reset himself. Byfeld continues, and I think he's gone. Oh no, he's not quite gone quicker. He was very close though to his previous best, only 4 thousandths slower. A good sign for the race, but that's not going to get him to go any further up the standings in this qualifying session.
Yeah, that's incredible consistency from the 105. Amazing to see as we're seeing Helsing here coming the long run up towards the Le Mans chicane. That McLaren is looking gorgeous as well in this very dull sunlight. Just the headlights piercing their way through. NASCAR 3 and 4 as we stand. Of course, he just flat out finds the straightest line possible through 3 and 4 and try not to lose any thousandth of a second. It's very easy actually to lose even up to like half a tenth just through those couple of corners if you choose the wrong line. It's very important. And then of course you just wait until you get to the timing line. Hopefully you can make an improvement for Helsing, who's of course currently in that 14th position and looks like going to be staying there for now.
Yeah, by running up high there through the tri-oval and out of turn 4, I think that was a setup for the next lap really, rather than a continuation of the previous one. Probably abandoned any hope that that lap was going to be any quicker. Daniel Holmer, meanwhile, is in 4th place in this qualifying session. Holmer not in the top 10, as we've just seen in the drivers' standings after the opening round of the season, which is a bit of a shame for him, considering how well he's doing. Oh, excuse me, he's in 8th place. I missed him. He's doing a good job in the Oval Series as well. He'll be competing for a place in the round of 10 next week. So make sure you tune into that. We'll be live same time for the next round of that as Holmer makes his way to the pit lane, doesn't decide to continue on with his lap time. I can tell you the track is so busy out there at the moment. We've got 50 drivers of the 51 in the session all out there now, just 49 because Holmer's just come in, but extremely busy. It's going to be a big relief for everybody that this is a solo qualifying session, but it's not a solo race, and everybody is going to be tearing down in towards turn 1 on top of each other as a group of 51. Hopefully they can all get through cleanly, but turn 1 has got to be something you've got to be worried about, and it's got to be a big motivator in this qualifying session. Daytona's not a difficult place to overtake, but you also don't want to be caught behind any crashes that can happen in a field of this size.
Yeah, it's not a fun one really around here when you have so many cars, because it's very easy to be 20, 30th with how close the lap times are going to be. But then if you are starting there, of course you're in the middle of the pack and you're very liable for some action into this very corner down in towards turn number 1. Had a few improvements just a few minutes ago. Blixt got up into 6th place just ahead of this driver of Stolberg, and then we also had a little bit further down as well, but Oliver Hagstrom Vigashut getting up into 18th position. So movement up and down the field as it stands. And of course, these drivers, as I say, they want to get as high up as they can. If you are so far back in the pack, yes, you can overtake with the long straights around here in the slipstream, but if the car ahead of you also has the slipstream, it makes it so much more difficult. And if you're in a big train of 20 cars, it is going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be, I think, one of the busiest rounds of the season, actually. Just to reference, as we saw at the start, the schedule, by the way, Spa coming up in 2 weeks' time. That's going to be similar in some ways to Daytona, but it's never the straight line speed fest that this circuit is, because no circuit is really, other than Le Mans, but that's not on this schedule. Motegi is the penultimate round. That's a pretty interesting one, because not a circuit you see very much of. And then Sebring to round out the season, the classic season finale, really. And I'd imagine that we will get a championship finale on that day as well. Anyone within 100 points of the championship lead, in theory, could be in with a chance of winning, although there's plenty more complications that come below that. We look at, meanwhile, Jo Strauberg out of the bus stop chicane. Decent first sector, although a few tenths behind where he needs to be. Middle sector very good in the Porsche. That's maybe what you're expecting to see from this car, because it isn't the best in a straight line, and so limiting the damage today and in 2 weeks' time may well be the only option. Over the line for Strauberg, it's a 45.2. And that is going to be just a bit slower than what he was previously. Now Marcus Beifeld in the McLaren, that is going to be a lot stronger round here. He sets a 52.0. That's very much a setup for what could be his last lap of the session.
Yeah, definitely. That's a bit of a warm-up lap, or maybe just a little bit of a mistake. He goes again, though, in that 105 machine. His sister teammate of Christopher Crook, currently in 9th position, trying to work his way up in towards the Le Mans chicane. Those lovely yellow alloys standing out as we work our way through this very tricky chicane. Indeed, of course, there's still grass there here, but in real life now, that is all completely tarmacked, just some white lines in the middle of a car park that you need to aim for. And once again, keeping it low, a lot closer to the apron than the previous driver, Strauberg, that we were seeing up towards the line. Also a solid sector times at this moment in time. Well, actually sector 1 is a little bit down, but sector 2, that is a strong one, and he comes up towards the line. That is not going to be the time that he would have wanted in terms of getting pole position, but let's see if he can do anything with one final lap.
There's Daniel Homer out of the bus stop chicane as well. What are his sector times indicating at the moment? First sector, nowhere near it, I'm afraid. Neither was the second. I'm not sure, unless the sector times I'm seeing at the moment are wrong, and they are the same as on your screen there, then that is going to be a lap of disappointment, I think, for Homer, and very much just setting himself up. Times not quite so bad as he's coming up towards the line. It's not quite where it needs to be, but it wasn't bad, to be honest. Lucas Lindqvist has gone very quick in the first sector as well, I can tell you. 44.7. That's a couple of attempts quicker than anybody else has done on their most recent lap. Although I must say the improvements are starting to dry up from absolutely everybody, including the likes of Lindqvist, who hasn't improved for ages, even if he has been on pole. That's quite wide from Bohlin. Did he get away with that through the bus stop? Doesn't look like the answer to that is yes, does it? Although he's still pushing on. He maybe should be making his way through for one more, I'm not sure, but the session's starting to wind down now. At the moment, it only looks like Lucas Lindqvist is going to improve his second sector again. Decent, and this could be an even bigger margin at the end of this session. Could even be a low 44. No, he's going to pull into pit lane. Maybe it wasn't going to be an improvement. He'll just practice pit entry instead. I think with 2 tenths of a buffer, though, he should be okay to take pole in the last 60 seconds of this session.
And Homer's going to be basically the last person on the track. It's going to be very close to him actually getting his time in, but I think by a couple of seconds, he's just going to sneak this lap. Is there going to be any further improvements? He's currently half a second off that pole position, but he needs just 4 thousandths of a second to improve his position on the 72 of Oliver Bohlin. Needs to nail this bus stop. Just got to get it over those sort of grey curbs as such. Don't go onto the grass. Solid exit there, and then just hold it flat out, hoping for a solid run indeed. Compared to Wallin's lap times, he is looking pretty good, but is this BMW going to be enough coming around NASCAR 3 and 4?
I think this could be an improvement of position at least. Don't forget, he only has to find 3 thousandths to overtake Bohlin, and I think he will have found that here, Daniel Homer, on the very last lap of the session. It is close for him making it. With seconds to go, he does. 45.0. That should be an improvement to move himself up. Is it going to be? No, it isn't. Oh, it's only 100th behind. Goodness me, I thought he was just the right side of that. But no, he's 100th the wrong side, and he can't quite improve. Lucas Lindqvist is going to take pole position here at Daytona, ahead of Marcus Byfeld. That's Lindqvist at second pole of the season, in 2, by the way. Henrik Lindhoff is directly ahead of his Simrace Sweden esports teammate Daniel Holmer. Oliver Bohlin and Eric Blix are lining up on the other side. Blix in the first of the Mustangs in 6th. Edwin Forsen and Andreas Bachmann are on row 4 ahead of Joel Strauberg in the first of the Porsches in 9th. Ahead of Christopher Crook rounding out the top 10. Oscar Johansson and Frederick Dallander are on row 6. Nicholas Helm is next ahead of Jody Helsing, the first driver rather, 1 second off of pole. Rickard Emberton and Christian Gatzer on row 8 ahead of Johnny Matson and Anders Hillestrom. Rounding out the top 20 is Frederick Neptun and Robin Otsland. Oliver Hodgson Vigazoo will be disappointed with 21st, considering where he was after Hockenheim in the standings. Thomas Gusterin alongside him, Christopher Geros and Christopher Dahlstrand on row 12. And by the way, we're not even halfway yet. Oscar Motin and Joachim Ulrichsen are on row 13 ahead of Victor Hammerstrom and also Oliver Rosqvist. It's Sebastian Magnussen and Philip Hahn rounding out the top 30. Jörg Frisk is 31st ahead of Rickard Allard with Lucas Peterson and Sebastian Tidmo on row 17. Pontus Vetstedt and Hakan Schott are on row 18. Frederick Forsell and Simon Green are teammates sharing row 19. Gabriel Nordberg and Emil Reinbach rounding out the top 40 ahead of Pontus Nordgren and Bjorn Brostrom. 43rd has gone to Kalle Wallingstram with Robert Carlson alongside Nicholas Grein and Linus Hellberg on row 28. Jonas Skoglund, or 23 rather. Jonas Skoglund and Kinnell are on the next row ahead of Hafizi Johansson, Lars Reisted and Marcus Stiller, who never qualifies. He is keeping up his trend of doing that and is indeed starting from the back. It's the Send It into Turn 1 by Clutch Club Racing event here at Daytona. 11 laps for the sprint race, 28 for a feature, only the top 10 reversed this season. That's going to be an almighty fight to get yourself into those first 10 places here at the end of the opening race.
Absolutely. One of the Clutch Club drivers is Marcus Stiller, as you say, doing his last to first challenge as ever. And as we work our way through the bus stop, fairly short opening sequence here, but this is going to be a tough one. We're now into full darkness, as you say, just the top 10 being reversed for the feature race, but with 50 cars, that is a lot of people trying to get themselves up there to have that reverse pole position. Having said that, that does mean even if you're 11th and 12th in this race, you'll of course start there for the feature, so it's actually not too bad. Just work your way forward, keep getting the points for the top 30 in every race, and then just see where it goes. It is going to be difficult coming down to turn 1 here. So many cars. It's a lot of things going on in front of you.
Absolutely. Look at the Simrace Sweden drivers on the BMWs, by the way, on the inside line there. They're going to be putting some pressure onto Lindqvist in towards turn 1. It's 51 drivers trying to all get themselves through. I think I saw someone pit lane starting. Oh no, it's just a late gridding, apologies. So there will be 51 actually on the circuit as well. We didn't see that either time at Hockenheim. Somebody started from pit lane both times, although different on both races. Here comes the green flag then. Daytona racing again in the GT3 series, and 51 drivers making their way in towards turn 1. Already side by side for second between Lindhoff and Byfeld, who's getting swallowed through the middle at the moment. Oh, and he's been spun very close to spinning right in front of the field there. There was contact with Daniel Holmer, I think, and he just about saves it, but he's in more contact here. He's spun across another one of the BMWs who's across the front of the field. Oh my word! It's been smashed by one of the McLarens that goes catapulting into the grandstands, and it's carnage in towards the International Horseshoe on lap 1.
Certainly was. That was the 27, which I think is Forsund's. He was the one being spun sideways as they came through the chicane of turn number 2. As you say, just drivers getting a little bit too close, and then the absolute send of one of the yellow cars up into the air. Huge contact being made already just in the opening sequence of corners. There's going to be a few drivers out of the race. I think it was Crook or Giros, because both of them, they're in the yellow McLarens and they're both out of the race.
Dear oh dear. what was going on there? That is already 4 cars down on pit lane. You're right, it was Forsund who was the BMW spun backwards. Byfeld was so close to being spun backwards himself, by the way, at Kohler earlier. He's only in 8th place, so it's not a great start, but it's not as bad as it could have been, as shown by Forsland. It's Lucas Lindqvist who's leading this race, ahead of Henrik Lindhoff. Then you've got Daniel Holmer, Eric Blix, Oliver Bohlin. They're definitely in the front group. What about the rest of them? Because Jos Strauberg is leading a line from 6th on backwards with Oscar Janssen. They're trying to stay with the leaders at the moment. If they do, it will be a top 12 all in one line. We know how important the slipstream is at Daytona. These guys have lost it by miles. These guys are the ones who are fighting for the top positions here. But look, it's not a traditional Daytona start, this is not a traditional... Oh, and there's more contact. That's Byfeld straight into the side there of Oscar Janssen, or the other way around, depending on how you see it. And Janssen goes around and he's drops down into 17th place.
That was a weird one because you sort of kink in the braking zone, but Johansson just went straight and, from my view, just came into the side of Byfeld. I have to see that one again. If there's anything that we missed on that one, is we got some side-by-side racing here. This is some important positions. That's Nicklas Helm trying to make up a position. He has done this. Gustrom in the blue and pink Mustang. That's now as we come through the kink, he needs to be looking in his mirrors because look at all these cars behind. You make one mistake and you're getting absolutely swamped here. So Helm there just one by one picking their way up the field, but it seems like contact is pretty prevalent around here. We've got some more drivers in the pit. We've got Bjorn Brostrom and Robin Ostlund coming down pit road at the end of lap 1.
So many drivers with at very least a delay at turn or lap 1 rather. It is only 11 laps this sprint race, by the way. It's going to be very short compared to the second race. So it's going to be about 45 minutes long in each of our rounds. So done to laps depending on the circuit, but yes, it is a chaotic opening to this race. There's a bit of side-by-side in towards the bus stop chicane, and there's some on the inside and not quite going through on that occasion, just to the outside of the second pot. Meanwhile, Marcus Byfeld is still regaining some places. Rickard Emberton is next in, and indeed is behind him now in that 8th place. Frederick Talander meanwhile has got low front end, so he can't really see where he's going, but luckily there's lights everywhere around this circuit. There's Byfeld. He is going to hang on to 7th place in towards turn 1 if there's not contact with the second lap into this corner, and thankfully he gets away with it. He'll stay 7th, and Talander will just about stay 9th, with Johnny Matteson trying to overtake him a bit further down. These are the battles inside the top 10, trying to stay in touch with the leader, but all hope of that pretty much eliminated after lap 1.
Indeed, that sort of opening sequence really spread out a couple of the drivers. So if you want to be getting in the top positions, you've really got to be doing good in qualifying in this series. So as the rounds progress, you are going to be seeing some of the drivers who are able to maximise their points purely because of that qualifying situation. We do have some big groups though forming. We've actually got driver headlights there a little bit further back as well. So there is going to be still opportunities for these drivers. But if you get a couple of seconds gap around here like Byfeld has, realistically it's going to be so difficult to come back from that unless you get a bit of a bump draft. So he'll be hoping that Edvinson can actually get on the back of him and start pushing him forward like we might see here actually.
Well, are we going to see drivers working together, or are they just going to fight? These guys might be a bit more interesting because they're fighting for a top 10 after all, and that reverse grid benefit that you'll get in 8 laps time if you're there. But for the moment they are running 14th, 15th, and this is in the teens, if you like, of the field. That's a good run from Oliver Hudson, big as you, right in behind the BMW, and there's your answer. No indication that they're going to try and help each other here, just pure indication that they're going to race between the two of them. Now, whether going on the outside at NASCAR turns 3 and 4 is actually a good idea, doesn't seem to matter to Oliver Hudson, big as you, who is trying to work his way past on the outside line. As they go past the stripe, it's going to be a dead heat pretty much. Now Hagström is going to have to do it on the brakes, but it's a long way round there at turn 1, as we've already seen. If he can stay there, he'll be in a good place, but he can't stay there, and he has to settle for 15th. There maybe is an example of why working together might have been a better idea than battling away like that, because they could have got a bit close to those in front. Instead, Oliver Hagström, big as you, wasted a lap trying to overtake and unsuccessfully making that overtake in the end.
Yeah, that was not the smartest thing. He should have, as much as it would have felt weird sort of lifting off a little bit to get behind him, but overall they would have been faster, and also he probably would have had more opportunity to overtake. Going side by side for that length of time, you just don't gain anything because you're side by side. If he's actually behind, getting a bit of slipstream, but getting a bit of a bump draft, something he would have at least gained in some weight, so he needs to just try and focus on that racecraft. There's a big slide there, so we work our way out through turn 6. You've got to be careful with that one with those rear tyres. But I'm sure that we're going to see the 811 try to swap things around here with his idea of how to race. At least you got to send it here in towards the bus stop, or just wait and get the run to turn 1. He is getting closer and closer. He is looking half a car to the left, thinking about it, but it just needs to sit in behind and then try and get the slingshot down to turn 1.
This is some replays from lap 1, by the way, so that's where it all started. It was a bit of a squeeze 3 wide, really. Forsand, I mean, probably could have held the brakes at some point. That, I can't explain that, by the way. The McLaren ending up in the grandstands is unexplainable. I'm afraid, I think Forsand probably could have done a lot more there, to be honest, in holding the brakes and also not setting off in front of the rest of the field at the end of all that there and driving into somebody else afterwards to prevent that from getting a lot worse, as it did there. It could have been better in the end. Let's have a look from Christopher Geros's point of view here. I can't imagine he could have done too much about it, although maybe slowing down would have been an idea. Seeing the smoke in front, he goes on the so he's already out of control there, as he's already clipped someone and then smashed it into the side of Forsand, who, as I say, probably could have held the brakes more than he did. That was a meeting in the middle there between Johansson and Byfeld in towards turn 1 on lap 2.
Yeah, that's such a weird one. Here's Wallington not being able to get the power down at all. Similar to what we saw the BMW just half a lap ago. So difficult part of the track there for the number 3 driver, as he's trying to obviously go flat out as quickly as you can, but it's a really long curving exit. You never really stop turning actually through that part of the track. Very difficult indeed. But yeah, going back to the first one with Giros, yeah, he had to go to the left there, and just very unlucky that Forsand came in his way. But for Forsand to get there in the first place, 3 wide through that chicane, you could see everyone was trying to give each other room, but that was just never going to work. And I would assume that would probably end up going down as a racing incident, because all 3 of them, unfortunately, not doing the smartest thing in the world. As we see the 245 here, this is the car of Dallander without the lights at the front. But fortunately, it's a floodlit race at pretty much all parts of this track, so he can see enough to get around.
And it's very unlikely, even if it wasn't, that he would be not around anybody else who would be able to show him the way with their headlights. So it's a good job on this case that there's 50 others to shine the light for him. That was contacting towards turn 1 as Eric Blix tried to get past Daniel Holmer and work his way into 3rd. Couldn't do it. Now Wallin's on the outside. That's a very late braking manoeuvre from him. If he pulls it up, he might have a chance, but he was never going to at the International Horseshoe. So this is much more like traditional Daytona racing. A battle for 3rd place, slipstream a big factor in it, and those battles towards turn 1, the side-by-side at turn 1, a big factor in this as well. This is much more like what you'd expect to see from the lead, but because of the carnage of the opening laps, it's allowed Lucas Lindqvist, among other things, to get away quite comfortably.
Yes, certainly. With that 2-second gap, no one really is going to be able to catch him. Fastest driver on the field, and he's got the slipstream, so Lindqvist is looking very good to wrap up a championship here, if he can continue with the pace that he has. But of course, he had a bit of a tricky race back at Hockenheim as well. Tricky time back at Hockenheim, so needs to be careful with that one. Let's see how it works though in this in the second part of this sprint race. Of course, we have the feature race still coming as well, where we will need a pit stop, so that can always change some things. But this is certainly, as you say, turning into a nice battle just in behind for the podium places. Holmer is going to be under attack here. The Mustang's got a huge run there, very Blix, but he chooses to sit in behind and not pull out early like we saw earlier with Vigashut.
Yes, you're almost at a disadvantage when you're getting such a good run like that. Now then, is he going to decide to go for it a bit later, or is he just going to push it? If they work together really well, they could catch Lindoff in the final 5 laps. So maybe that's what Blix is thinking about here. He's certainly not thinking about an overtake at turn 1 this time round. It didn't work for him last time. So he didn't see any reason why it would work out for him this time either in lap 7. As they now get on the brakes for the International Horseshoe. There goes Bohlin. So he wasn't expecting that, I don't think. Oliver Bohlin doesn't want to cooperate here and try and catch Lindhoff or indeed anybody else. He wants to get whatever position's in front of him, and it may not be the smartest thing to do, but that's what he wants. 4th place here. Very close to the outside of the circuit through the fast left-hander. Now Blix looks to dive back to the inside afterwards in towards the West Horseshoe. He can't, and Oliver Bohlin does move up to 4th place.
Yeah, lovely battle there. Bohlin saw the opportunity down the inside into the horseshoe and managed to find his way past Blix. In the end, he was looking to get past Holmer, and now he's over a 2.5 seconds behind. Things can change very quickly around here, but the door was left open there as we're going to see Philip Hahn in the 66, all just hitting the bump, losing the rear end. Big contact on the front. How no one else has collected him, I do not know. Well, that is a very lucky situation for everyone else. Huge contact there, just too tight on the inside. Way too many bumps and losing the rear end.
That was pretty hard contact there for Philip Hahn. Now the best of the Porsches, by the way, is here overall in 6th place. Joe Strauberg. Not a circuit for this car really, and since 2/5 of this calendar is made up by circuits that are not particularly suitable for the Porsche, just beg the question, why would anyone pick it? But either way, Beifeld certainly in a more suitable car, certainly a faster car in a straight line, the McLaren, and he's going to roar past on the outside line here over the start-finish line. Oh, maybe not. Strauberg fighting back on the inside, and with a bit of late braking, he could have some joy there. He's given himself a very tight line, not much to work with, but Beifeld is successfully defended there from Jo Strauberg. That's a very good bit of defensive driving in an inferior car, you would probably describe it as, for this 6th place.
Yeah, I would assume the 105 does have a bit of damage on it as well from some of the contact that we saw on that opening lap. So definitely not helping his situation. But yeah, definitely a little bit of side draft going on there, I think, as well. So Strauberg able to hold on, and they got 2.5 seconds up ahead. So no reason to think about anything else apart from trying to keep Beifeld behind. Of course, Beifeld, the reigning champion as such of the road course series variants, but let's see how he goes. Well, actually, not quite, because actually we had the season before. The previous one, the F4 season, he was the champion 1 year ago, but let's see if he's able to do anything to chase down Lindqvist. He was a lot closer, trading positions with him back at Hockenheim, but when we come to here at Daytona, fortunately, he's missing out after that lap 1 incident.
Bus stop chicane, not going to be an overtaking chance this time around. As they approach on 3 laps to go here, by the way, in the sprint race of the 2nd round, if you like, of the Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series, the 3rd race underway right now. Here comes Beifeld, side by side a bit earlier, well, maybe the same actually as last lap compared to Jo Strauberg. And initially, as he got the run-off of NASCAR Turn 4, he did get the momentum coming down the other side of the slope. Gravity will help you there in the McLaren, but Strauberg fights back on the inside again, much like last time, into the tri-oval. The two are taking wildly different lines. Beifeld later on the brakes this time, though, and he's just about got his nose in front. He was close to contact there, and they are again as they go through the S's, now in towards the International Horseshoe. He's surely got to get this done now, and Beifeld does. 6th place, decent recovery from his earlier incidents.
And Strauberg fought that as much as he could, but when we got to the horseshoe, definitely broke a bit earlier on that really wide line, and Beifeld gets through. What a crazy sequence, though, coming through turn 1. As you mentioned, completely different lines. I mean, Beifeld was basically continuing on the oval circuit, and Strauberg was almost taking the pit exit. Crazy lines, but it managed to work for the 105 machine. And he is able to now push on. I think there's not enough laps for him to be able to get past Oliver Bohlin, though, of course, with 3 seconds being the gap ahead. But saying that, the reason why it's Bohlin is because Blix has got back through, and he's now having another opportunity at Holmer, so he must be the fastest driver of this top 3. Now he looks to the inside as we come down to the chicane.
Yeah, it's probably debatable who's fastest out the 3 of them, but Blix is certainly making a good case right now. In towards the bus stop, he's got it. And the better line's going to give him a great exit as well compared to Holmer, who really couldn't afford to lose that place through the bus stop. But once he missed the inside line for the first pot, he was in big trouble. Now, interestingly, Wallin's much more interested in pushing. So he recognises this situation as a difficult one. to keep Blix in check, and they're going to do that by bump drafting here. Look at this, the BMW's going to pick up big speed, and Holmer could have a big chance of going back past Blix now. Wallin's looking on the inside of him as well. It could all get messy here in towards turn 1. Where does Blix go? He defends from Wallin, who still goes down his inside and forces it free wide. Goodness me, how did they come out the other side still pointing the right way? I've got no idea. Here comes Blix again through the middle, and he takes third again. Holmer goes backwards. Wallin somehow gains a place. Now he's alongside the Mustang. Now he's wide. Here comes Holmer again.
And this is 3 of the best teams in this series as well, with Alcantech, Morby Bright Esports and Simray Sweden all going at it. And there's definitely a bit of beef here between Wallin and Blix. They are getting very aggressive towards each other. Wallin not able to do anything on the outside line that time around. The 95 holding on to it. And to us, I think Wallin actually pulled out the slipstream too early. If they stayed there longer with the bump draft, I think they might have been able to freight train Blix, but they didn't do so. And there was almost a huge crash down to turn 1. Once again, aggressive driving from Wallin in the 72 machine. They both get past Holmer though in the space of a lap, so that is unfortunate for Holmer, as he not only drops off the podium but now down to 5th place.
Byfeld is probably not catching up quickly enough, but maybe this time, next lap, if there's a similar lap on lap 11 to what we had earlier on this lap, then there's a chance here for Marcus Byfeld to get involved in a battle for the podium places. They're all going to be involved in the reverse grid and the all-important top 10. At the moment, by the way, there's not a battle for 10th place to really look at. Frederick Darlander has finally dropped outside the top 10 and probably isn't going to be moving forward back into it again, considering the condition that car's in after the opening laps of this race. There is another driver missing their front end, by the way. Further down, is that Nicholas Helm, I think? Yeah, 16th place it is, just behind Joachim Ulrichsen. He's also missing his front end.
Oh my, this is crazy. Helm, he did have it though. We about 2 laps ago we saw that. Come back to that though. 3 wide in towards turn 1. Blix held on to that position, but in behind we're going to have side by side Wallin. Holmer trying to squeeze his nose on that outside to have the inside line into the horseshoe, but they stay in the same position for now. Byfeld is getting very close. I tell you what, he might just have a run to the line. If he can get a couple of tenths closer, he will get that slipstream, and this is going to be a big fight. Blix has got a few car lengths, but are they still going to be there when we get back onto the NASCAR oval? That's going to be the important section. Wallin very late on the brakes there and trying his best to get past.
That was the moment. 3 wide again between these 3 for a podium place. Blix has it for the moment. He's 5th in the championship right now, by the way. That's where he got to in the points after the opening round. Wallin 1 position behind him in 6th. Daniel Holmer in 8th place. All of these 3 having decent starts to their day again. Byfeld, the championship leader, needs some of these positions really, but he's not close enough from 6th place. He's just a spectator from back there in the McLaren. You can only just quite see him on the right-hand side of shot. Meanwhile, Lucas Lindqvist is coming through to take race 1 victory for the 2nd week in a row. He was pretty dominant in the opening race at Hockenheim, and the same story has happened here again at Daytona. Perhaps unsurprisingly, really, as Wallin does lose time out the bus stop. Holmer gets alongside. Byfeld could well get alongside them as well. We'll see as Lucas Lindqvist comes free to win round 3 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series here from Daytona. Who's going to finish 4th? It looks like Wallin's got the shortest distance to the line, and so he just makes it ahead of Holmer after coming under big pressure in the final moments of that race.
And up towards the line, it is going to be a bit of a run there for P10. Bagman is going to get it, not able to get Matteson at the line. 3 wide, Helm's got through the middle, a bit of contact, he saves it, and up towards the line, just by a nose, the 55 is going to get it. Oh my word, what a finish we had there. The driver's certainly pushing up towards the line, and he was just about able to sneak that final place there. Wow, big run there as we're going to get another side-by-side to the line. Looks like the clutch car though is going to just about hold on to that one, as the slipstream such big effect around here.
It really does. Those runs up towards the line, so crucial. There's going to be some more here, by the way. Carlson and Scotland are quite close at the moment, although they're not quite towards the line just yet, I don't think. Looks like that's just about going to be the lot, though, as far as close finishes go. Even so, 42 finishing on the lead lap, by the way, without any problems or pit stops throughout that race. Pretty impressive considering the lap one that we had. Lucas Lindqvist wins by 3 seconds ahead of Henrik Lindhoff, with Eric Blix winning that battle for third ahead of Oliver Bohlin and Daniel Holmer, who were side by side over the line. Marcus Byfeld with the best seats in the house to that one. Josh Starberg was one of 2 Porsches in the top 10, with Rickard Emberton with him. Johnny Madsen and Andreas Backman were quite close over the line. They'll be on the front row together for race 2 in a few moments' time. Fredrik Dallander finished 11th, only just ahead of Christian Gantz and Oliver Rosquist. It was Oliver Huisgenvingers up to 14th by the end, with Nicholas Helm through the middle, as you say, from Joachim Ulrichsen and Oscar Johansson. Then Oscar Motin, Fredrik Neptun and Rickard Allard rounding out the top 20. Anders Hillestrom was next ahead of the Mustang pairing of Sebastian Magnussen and Thomas Gusterin. Lucas Pettersson and Jörg Frisk round out the top 25, with Thomas Kinnell in the Acura 26th. 4 more Mustangs next. Marcus Stiller up from the very back of the field, up 24 positions to finish 27th, ahead of Simon Green, Emil Reinbach and Sebastian Tidmo in the top 30. Jody Helsing was next ahead of Pontus Svedstedt and Linus Hellberg in the Ferraris. Fredrik Forsell and Pontus Norgren in the top 35 ahead of Jonas Skoglund just outside. Robert Carlson, Kalle Wellingström, the first driver, over a minute off the win, with Victor Hammerström and Felicity Johansson running out the top 40. Lars Reisted was next to Philip Hahn, the last driver on the lead lap. Christopher Dahlström was 1 down, with Robin Ostrand a few down, along with Nicholas Grant, Christopher Crook, Christopher Geros, Björn Broström, Hakan Schott, Gabriel Norberg, and at the very back end of the field, Edwin Forsund, who did actually get out for a couple more laps, but was severely damaged after the opening laps of that race. Well, what an opening race we have had. It is the next day here now at Daytona, and we'll be ready to go for race 2 very, very shortly. We will be back in a few moments' time for that second race at Daytona. Stay with us here on RaceSpotTV. Round 4 of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 Series is coming up next. Welcome back to Daytona for the fourth round of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series here on iRacing. I'm Ian O'Leary alongside Cam Roger with Hugo Louise behind the cameras here as always. Just over 3 minutes left in warm-up. A bit of an extended warm-up for everybody in this session, all to prepare themselves, Cam, for race 2. I'm not sure what preparation they can really do, and I'm not sure what their mindset is going to be like after race number 1. After seeing the carnage through that one, will it make them pull things back a little bit, or even more eager to make up positions? I can't quite tell, because there's another very important race start coming up here with the likes of Lucas Lindqvist, for example, on your screen here. Race 1 winner starting in the midfield, down in 10th place.
Of course, and I think what's going to change here is the fact that we have a pit stop. So we have fixed setup in this series, but the fixed setup being used has half a tank of fuel. So when they start the race, they have to have half a tank of fuel, and therefore they don't have enough to get to the end of the race. So at some point, they are going to need to splash that in, and of course, they will take tyres at that point as well. So there's definitely a pit stop going to be made, and with so many laps out there. 28 is going to be for this feature race. There's a lot of opportunity for when you want to do that. I would assume everyone is going to want to go as far as they can if you are towards the front of the field, but you never know. Someone might try and go in a little bit early, but the longer you go, on average per lap, you're going to be on less fuel. If you pit after, let's say, 9 laps to then go to the end of the race, then of course on average you're going to have more fuel and therefore be heavier and go a little bit slower. So I think people are going to be eking out the stint as long as they can. But unlike Hockenheim, we don't have the rain out there to wait to go on the slick tyres. It is going to be a straight fight to the end. Yeah,
it was a very easy decision, wasn't it, at Hockenheim, to when to take the field. Well, not an easy decision, but it was obvious when you were going to take the field. This race might be a bit more strategic. Now, there is a 1% chance of rain towards the latter end of this race. Not sure that's going to figure in the minds, really, of these drivers. I don't think that's anything, really, for them to worry about. So it is going to be about fuel. This is interesting. You mentioned the going long strategy versus pitting early, because, they are both the valid strategies. And certainly on paper, running long might be the best thing to do, keeping that fuel load low, as you were saying. However, it may well be that you're stuck in traffic and you want to get out of it by pitting a little bit early, and that you won't have such worries about coming out into more traffic further down round here, because it's a lot more easy to overtake at Daytona as it is compared to somewhere like Hockenheim 2 weeks ago, or maybe Motegi or Sebring later on in the season. This is one of those circuits you can overtake on, and so even if you do end up in a bit more traffic, it's not as big as a problem.
Oh, definitely not. And I think it's just the space as well. Such a big track. Even with 50 odd cars, you separate out fairly nicely around here. So hopefully we should be getting a lot more cleaner race. I should say though, it is top 10 reversed, but with 50 car field, the top 10 generally, that's the top 20% of the field. You would hope that they are all competent enough to be spun around, but that does open the opportunity for the likes of Lindqvist to send it a little bit, try and get some space, some places up early. But sometimes being patient around it is very important. You just can't afford to lose too much time in the opening couple of laps where you're having to chase and make some risky moves.
As you'll notice as well, we are doing this second race in the daylight. Again, not that it makes a huge difference to anyone in this circuit, because the floodlights are so good around here at Daytona. It's the traditional time for racing here as well. It's, back in the day, almost all the races used to happen at this circuit at the night time, because we didn't have day-night everywhere else, but we do now. Meanwhile, this is the starting grid for race number 2. Andres Bachmann got 10th, and so we'll be starting on the pole ahead of Johnny Matson, who were fighting, actually, the first two in that first race. Rickard Everton and Joe Strauberg are on row 2, and all Porsche row 2 ahead of Marcus Beifeld. Championship leader coming into today will have lost that to Lindqvist in that last race. Alongside him is Dan Homer. Then Oliver Bohlin and Eric Blix are on row 4 ahead of Henrik Lindhoff and Lucas Lindqvist. And outside the top 10, the field is exactly the same as it was when they finished the opening race of the day. So we'll let the rest of that scroll through on your screen, and you can pick out where your favourite driver is in the picture. It's not too bad starting 10th place with the reverse top 10 as what it used to be in the IndyCar series. For example, last time top 20 reverse. That made it very difficult to go back-to-back. I'm not ruling out Lingvis going back-to-back at all here. In fact, one of the big problems for him last time was spinning out in the rain and just ended up losing too much time to ever recover from. He doesn't have that problem in Daytona. He's just got to get through this opening lap, and then maybe he can look forward and maybe he can go back-to-back here in the 2 races tonight.
Yes, maybe indeed. It is going to be quite difficult, though, I think, with the likes of Beifeld being up ahead of him now, and I think Beifeld is going to be very strong for this race, but you never quite know how it is going to go with that pit stop as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if he at least gets on the podium. It's one of those things as well. In Hockenheim, if I remember rightly, if the race was going to be maybe 3, 4, 5 laps longer, he would have had the pace to get up even higher. So he was coming back very strong indeed. There he is, top right hand on your screen, the black and white car. He's got a few cars to get past, but let's see what they can do. Of course, Bachmann on that front row with Masson alongside him.
Absolutely. Different look to the front end of the field as the top 10 are reversed. And we set them off again. This time for 28 laps. It's a lot longer of a race. It's got a pit stop within it. And there's a lot more sort of methodical thinking to do around this race as opposed to the first one, that's for sure. Here comes Bachmann towards the start line, and the 4th round of the Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 series gets underway immediately with a 3-wide moment as through the middle, Stolberg is going backwards in the Porsche. He's going to brake early as well, as on the outside line, Daniel Holmer tries to gain places. He goes quite wide though. Through turn 1 there's a spin, meanwhile for one of the Porsches in the mid-pack. It looks like it's ended up off the road, and so they'll be all okay to get past it in towards the International Horseshoe for the first time. It's a lot cleaner for the top 10 than what it was in the opening race, that's for sure, as the front guys get away well. Lindqvist is up to 9th at the expense of Eric Blix. Bachmann holds on to the lead. Stolberg has gone down a bit, but other than that, it's a pretty clean start. There goes Lindqvist down the inside, who could be through another position here at the expense of Lindhoff, as another one of the McLarens goes off to the outside of the circuit.
Yes, Rosequist in the 211 machine going off. He's got no rear bumper on that car, so maybe rear-ended in the braking zone. There's a few drivers going wide for one of the Sim Race Sweden cars, as well as we're trying to see drivers move all over the place. Blix has gone behind Lindqvist, as Lindqvist is now on the back of Stolberg. We have a huge train of cars, but the top 3, top 4 have got away as we try and see a bit of a slipstream moment. It's actually Bachmann. He's got 1.5 second lead. Is Everden, who is now trying to defend for all these cars in behind. This is going to be a really tough one in that green machine to hold on, as Bachmann is just shooting away up ahead.
He is absolutely gone. What a fantastic start from Andreas Bachmann in the lead of this race. Beifeld has got to do something pretty quickly here, but it's not a great car to be behind. Oh, the 211's had an even bigger crash this time round, and one of the Ferraris has gone for a spin as well here. It is not a good start to the race for some. Already down on pit lane, by the way, we've got Jonas Skoglund, who may not have even started. I'm not entirely sure, but he's down on pit lane at the moment, as we've got one of the cars off the banking, having been in the wall pretty hard. That's Beifeld very deep on the brakes at turn 1. He got past 1, but he's been passed by Bohlin and Lindhoff as well.
Oh my lord. So firstly, that Mustang was absolutely totaled there coming through the tri-oval. Then coming down into turn 1, we see drivers not able to find their braking zone. We saw this already in the opening lap. A few drivers going a bit deep a few times. Maybe the brakes still not up to the temperature that they would have wanted, or drivers just pushing it a little bit too hard. Huge send on the outside from the 55, Nicholas Helm. He's gone way too wide. He's going to go into the grass. A few drivers going to slide up his inside, and he's going to be dropping down a couple of places there. At least he's got a front end on the car, but look at this train of cars. We are staying much closer than we did in that opening race, and therefore the drivers are going to be having way more opportunities to get past, but you've got to be so careful with this many cars next to each other.
Absolutely. It's some more of a traditional look to a traditional Daytona race, with the top 17 effectively away, although Bachmann is slightly subverting that by getting a second lead right now. This is a bit further down the pack. This is the second group on the road, if you like, in the field. You got Frisk at the front of it with Hillestrøm down his inside, quite tentative, costing everybody time, and it allows the top 17 to get away. So this is what's happened on lap 1. It was pretty clean at the start, but Christian Gantz was the first to go around in the Porsche. He seemed to be avoided by everybody as those at the back come to a pretty much standstill to try and avoid everything that's gone on, including that McLaren that started from pit lane. And that's everybody getting through nicely. Now, Lucas Pedersen did go for a big spin through the chicane. The difference this time, I think, compared to what we saw for Forsland last race, was no one collected Pedersen, and there was no one to drive straight into the back of him immediately. This is Oliver Roskrieg's second incident. He got spun round at the bus stop and then hit by another one of the Ferraris before going around for a second time.
Yeah, that was a bit of a messy start. I mean, going side by side through the bus stop is terrible at the best of times, especially on lap 1 when there's multiple drivers coming in behind. That might be in Dallander actually having some further issues there. Oh, big moment for shot, spin around multiple times. There's further crashing on the inside as well. So these drivers really, I think it's just struggling for space. So many cars. There's one of the Wevo cars, Wallingston, getting caught up with his teammate. I think that's Hana. Unfortunately, his teammates there in the yellow machine, so that's not good for the Wevo drivers. And coming a little bit further, Gran as well, spinning just in front of his teammates in turn 1. So a lot of team-on-team action here, but the action does not stop. Stiller from the pit lane couldn't avoid all the damage, as Taustrand also just getting tagged.
That was very clumsy, that one there. Oh dear. Oh no. Oh no. That's a bit of a catastrophe there for Pontus Nordgren. This is not brilliant driving from any one of the 4 involved. Oh dear. Nordgren properly into the air. Wallingston, I mean, Wallingston could have seen that coming, to be honest. But anyway, he just decided to pile in anyway, and Nordgren goes in the air. Never mind. Meanwhile, in live pictures, by the way, side by side for some of the top positions at the moment, Bachmann has been caught by Beifeld and Lindhoff and Bohlin. So it's one long line for the front of the race at the moment. Madsen and Blix side by side towards turn 1 as well, just a bit further up the road. Blix has gone backwards. Madsen has got the move on the inside, and he's still side by side. Actually, it's not quite done yet. Oh, he's been clipped. Blix has been clipped, and there's a spin for the Mustang. He's outside the top 10. It wasn't a brilliant start for him in the first place, but he's certainly not a good start now. He spins down outside the top 10 now, and he's into the second group. He looks damaged as well to me there.
And I believe he's in P15. A good save, though, in terms of getting the car back in the right place, in the right facing the right way. But unfortunately, there's a few positions lost, and there's going to be some key places as well. Look how close these drivers are. You have one little spin, and 4 or 5 cars go past. He's going to struggle to get those positions back very easily indeed. He's been in some tough fights throughout the day, including that sprint race just earlier this evening, and now trouble comes his way in the feature race as well. He's on the back of this train, though, and he should be able to try and work his way forward.
Well, let's see as they get into the slipstream. Marcus Beifeld is into the slipstream of the leader, although the problem for him is that Lucas Lindqvist has managed it as well. So that's the bad news for the likes of Beifeld, Lindhoff, Bohlin, who are all trying to overtake him in the championship, and they're all realistically close to doing so. Bachmann, the reason I've not mentioned him, of course, is because he started the day 14th in the standings and was only in the low part of the top 10 before, so he will probably move into the top 10 by the end of the day if this continues on, but he's not a championship contender for the moment. Here comes Marcus Beifeld at the end of lap number 4 as they cross the line, surely to the lead now for the McLaren driver. Bachmann on the inside may well have to give this one up in the Lamborghini. No, he's going to brake late on the inside, and Beifeld is going to have a harder time getting this done than he maybe thought. Switch back out of the first corner into the chicane for the first time. We've seen contact through here before with Blix, most notably, just a couple of moments ago. Now Beifeld's on the outside for the International Horseshoe, and this all of a sudden gets very difficult. It's still side by side out the corner.
And he's having to work for this 3-4 corners in a row, side by side. He's going to have the inside for the kink, and Bagman is going to just tap the brakes to get out of that one, almost going onto the grass. He's having to hold the inside line here because we're now getting a big run from Lindhoff in the 8 machine BMW, and Lindqvist as well. He's got past Bohlin. He might be able to make this onto the podium already from 5th to 3rd place in a couple of corners, as Lindhoff just desperately tries to hold on to that inside line. It's going to be the up and under, though, and Lindqvist surely is going to be on the podium here as he gets the slipstream from the Lamborghini ahead of him.
Lindhoff is playing. Lindqvist is playing everybody else like fiddles right now. He is having a fantastic run through the field, and now he's into third already. Now, when does it stop? Does it ever stop here, or are we going to see someone come back at him, and then all of a sudden the script is flipped, if you like? Here comes Lindhoff down the inside into the bus stop. That's not going to happen. Too risky through there. Bachmann is having a hard time keeping up with Byfeld, and that means that Lindqvist is going to have to make a move on this lap, really, to try and stay with the leader. Henrik Lindhoff is going to have to try and come with him, but that's going to be difficult because his run out the bus stop chicane wasn't very good. It's Lamborghini versus Lamborghini in towards turn 1 now, although Lindqvist is not really close enough just for the moment. He is now closing in the slipstream finally, but he's finding this quite difficult. Over the line, can he look to the inside? Maybe now there's going to be a chance. Here he goes to the inside. Maybe where Bachmann wasn't expecting it. Sending in it as well as Lindhoff. He's trying to follow through. Important overtakes being made as they all try and keep up with Marcus Byfeld in the lead.
Oh, contact in the background with Bohlin though, and Bachmann goes around. He collects the car actually, and he's going to hold on to that 6th place. But that was definitely a bit of front to rear contact as the 72 of Bohlin was trying to follow Lindhoff through, coming through that chicane. Homer goes through and Bachmann as well. Nice easy free position, and I tell you what, these guys have been really aggressive. Let's see this. So Lindhoff goes through, and Bohlin, there isn't really the space there, is there? As they approach that corner, he was pushing it, and I wouldn't be surprised if a penalty's coming his way.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you can see what they're all trying to do, trying to stay with the leaders. Oh, almost at all costs. That was contact with Oskar Janssen in the 313. Hit the back of Rickard Emfreden, and he will lose a lot of momentum onto the banking as a result there. Oliver Hugson is now in the top 10, by the way. He's now behind Janssen. There they are. And the run down in towards the bus stop chicane. So all very close in this second group, all being headed by Mattsson at the moment. Further up, of course, Byfeld is leading and trying to reduce the size of that front group. He's been successful by the looks of it as well. It looks like Lindhoff and Lindqvist are coming with him, but Bohlin and Holmer are not. And that's maybe a legacy of what happened earlier on this lap, as the two of them had to find themselves past Bachmann at a place where these guys didn't. They'd already had it done by turn 1. Are we seeing a leading three being created now, or have Oliver Bohlin and Dan Holmer got a bit more here to bring themselves back into the fight?
I think as the race goes on, if it's clean, these three will slightly pull away. But what is very interesting with this race is Lindqvist got to second place a lot earlier than I was expecting. With how close that top battle remained in the opening 5 laps, he was able to stay there and work his way forward. But if you're looking behind, there's a big train of cars. I thought he would get caught up in that, but he was able to work his way forward. And now this is actually a big problem for Byfeld, because he's got the fastest man in the series right behind him, and he's got 20 laps to try and find a way past. So this is going to be a big effort here from Byfeld if he wants to hold on to his lead in the championship exiting this round.
Absolutely. Comes into today with a 10-point advantage over Lindqvist. Nobody else was really anywhere close to them. It's already shaping up to be a bit of a 2-horse race, I've got to say. Further down, that's side by side between Vetterstedt and Reinbach in the background of that shot. I think that was for 24th place. Vetterstedt getting through on Emu Reinbach in number 99. These guys are over 20 seconds off the lead already. I can tell you that there are still 38 in the race, a couple more running laps down if they are running. But interesting that Joel Stroberg has already made a stop. Now, whether he can make it to the end or not, I think maybe a different scenario, but he has at least tried to do something by pitting early. Something that these guys haven't tried to do, is we're 1/4 of the way through round number 4, the feature race at Daytona. Only just getting started, really, between these three. There's a lot more to come, but there could be a long period of waiting coming up now. The opening skirmishes are over. This is very much the middle part of the race where things have calmed down for the leaders.
You say that Vigju's still getting past for 9th position. Look, this is the gaggle of cars that I was mentioning. I thought Lindqvist was going to get caught up in this. Up the inside is going to be for Vigju. He's already got 1 place this lap. He's trying to make another as Everson is Joby dropping down in towards 9th place. We're coming up towards the Kinks side by side around the outside. It's going to be for the McLaren. Do they give each other just about enough space? They do. And that is going to be a position for Vigju. Huge send up the inside from Helm. That was really, really late. Unfortunately, the number 117 not able to defend that as he was already out of position from the McLaren getting past him, and now everyone is smelling blood and trying to get through as well.
They get away with it, these guys, as they work their way now out onto the banking again. Here, on the inside of Helm comes Johansson in the Acura. He'll get through there pretty easily. Helm will have to tuck back in again on the low side. Now, he'll have to lift off surely before the bus stop chicane, as there's a little look there from Blix on Fredrik Dallender, and he's going to go for it. Thought he was always just getting his mirrors, but no, he is actually trying for the overtake here, and he backs out halfway through. That's the worst of both worlds. He should have backed out either before or just gone through with the overtake, because he's cost them both time there.
Yeah, that was basically the slowest way for both drivers getting through that corner. Look at the gap that they've got behind. So that is a huge bump draft of V8 American power as he pushes the Acura up towards the start-finish line, trying to get every 10th of a second that they can to close that gap back down. And Blix does not have the race that he would have wanted. He's already got a couple of places, actually. He was at lowest 15th as all. That is too deep there for the 245, and Blix goes through. I just looked away for a second. I wonder if Blix was still pushing a bit too late, or if he just wasn't ready for the extra speed from that bump draft. Once again, side by side, seeing these two drivers as Helm just about finds his way through. Can he? No. Everton is going to hold on as we go. This is deja vu of the previous lap.
Towards the fast left-hander again. That was really close to contact, and they are going to get away with it. How Helm held on, I'm not sure. Everton back down the inside. Helm's really struggling with those rear tyres, it looks to me, and he's actually now down behind the Acura again of Dallender, Fredrik Dallender. So Blix gets through to 11th, Dallender gets through to 12th, and Helm gets some very hot rear tyres and 13th place for his troubles as well. This is now a group for 10th. What was for 7th not that long ago is now for 10th place. You can see how battles really do give you a disadvantage time-wise in these races very quickly.
Indeed, as we're seeing Blix get the run off turn 2 as we work our way in towards the bus stop, and another position there. So Blix is slowly working his way forward from 15th back up to 10th after that little issue earlier. This is that position that he was, and realistically he's actually not too far off. The only problem is there's a big gap between 6th and 7th place. We go 3 wide, actually not quite, as one driver there comes down in towards the pit lane, and I think that's actually a lap down. So the top 3 are going to continue on. Byfeld leads from Lindqvist and Lindorf. They are the same order from when we first saw them a lap ago, so I think you and you are right. They're not going to be doing anything too crazy right now. They just want to confirm, pull away from the cars behind of Bohlin and Homer, and confirm there's just going to be a 3-car battle in the second half of this race.
Johnny Matson versus Oliver Hikes from Vigju in towards turn 1. Gives Vigju the outside for turn 1, but the inside for the International Horseshoe. And he gets through into 7th place. Needs to recover some of those points lost in the opening race of the day. This is 4th place in the overall championship, so certainly going to want to improve on that position if at all possible, because Joel Strauberg is a very long way down indeed, having already made his pit stop for the second race. He's through though, and Matson is going to just try and stop the overtakes from getting overwhelming here, and stop this from getting too bad. Oski Hansen is next in line, but for these drivers who end up on pole and in second place, especially in these reverse grids, it can be very difficult to stop yourself from just snowballing and losing loads and loads of positions. So far Matson has lost 6 in 10 laps.
but still being inside the top 10, I guess, would be the aim by the end of the race. That P10 car is Blixt, who's just sneaking into the back of the shot at some points, so he hasn't got too many positions to hold on. But just look, the train of cars continues. Of course, they're a little bit more spread out now, but whenever we get the slightly wider shot, there's just cars everywhere out there on the field. Of course, we have had quite a few drivers being laps down. We really have about 40 drivers still out there on the track, but that's still plenty, even at a track like this that is so long, being almost 6 kilometers long. But we continue on the race, of course, and up towards the front we still see these top 3. Interestingly though, we do see that Lindhoff is closer to Lindqvist than Lindqvist is to Byfeld. That's a bit of a pattern that we see. So I wonder if Lindqvist is almost purposefully just staying out that distance, just remaining calm at this point in the race.
I think so. I think he's playing a long game at the moment, and he's saving a bit of fuel just so that he can benefit later on from a shorter pit stop. Actually not having to make the overtake on the circuit at all. What you've also got to think about this circuit, don't forget, is not only actually getting in front, as you would be around all the other circuits, but actually getting a second in front. You need to be a long way ahead if it's going to be of any meaningful or any meaning at all, I should say, because otherwise they'll just get your slipstream in the same way that you've got theirs at the moment, and that is going to be pretty pointless come the end of the race. You'll be in exactly the same battle, just with the track position instead, which really doesn't mean very much around here at Daytona. We are still waiting for 34 of the drivers to come in, most of the top 35 bar one. So I'm not sure what stage of this race you can start to come into pit lane and make it home, but I suspect we've already crossed that point, since we're tearing towards halfway at the moment, just 3 laps away from that. And we will surely see some pit stops very soon as a result. There goes Oliver Hagström up a little bit high, not sure why. Madsen's got a job on his hands here to help out Oski Hansen and Eric Blix this time towards turn 1.
Blick is making some moves. He had Everton on the back of him on the previous lap, and now he's absolutely pulled away. Look at the freight train. Madsen surely is going to be losing out. Actually, he's working well with that side draft on the outside, slowing them down, but up the inside in towards turn number 1, it is still going to be Vigshu who just holds on. Madsen side by side as we work our way through the chicane. Can he hold on with Johansson? Side by side we go. Lovely battle down in towards the horseshoe, and Blixt is there in that big Mustang, trying to wait for an opportunity for him to get past. Madsen there up the inside, going to be making that position, and Johansson here probably going to be dropping 2 places. Blix is trying to get through as well.
He looked like he was going to go through the middle at one stage there, Blix, but he decides not to. That's very wide from Madsen. He's got to get it back on the circuit again before he starts to brake, otherwise he'll go straight to the side of Johansson. He did just about manage it. Blix alongside will now try and come through on that Acura of Johansson. Is he going to manage it here? No, is the answer. Johansson on the inside is going to be fine to make it through. But look at that again. The battles happen, and those behind start to have their eyes widen, because Nicholas Helm, Rickard Everton and Fredrik Talander are back in the group again, which they were already tailed off from earlier on. They're now back as a result of this battle.
Yeah, you lose so much momentum, so much lap time from all this battling, and that is why you see the drivers at the front, that top 3, not really battling at this moment in time. So we've got 2 3-way battles here. Blixt on the back of this one needs to be pushing up ahead, because he really has a big struggle in behind. If we get Helman, Enforden coming on the back of him as well. It's actually Helm, he's pulled away from those 2 drivers. Might just sneak the slipstream from Blixt, but Blixt, can he do a bit of a freight train moment to try and get past both of these drivers? Up towards the start-finish line we go. He's sort of pulling out half a car length, half car width I should say, trying to find some space. Not enough to make the move unless he wants to go absolutely daring on the brakes. Doesn't look like he's going to do that, so he's going to sit in for another lap and just wait for his opportunity. He tried to do a bit of an up and under there in towards turn 1, but wasn't able to get his nose down the inside.
Yeah, the speed he had was frighteningly overpowering compared to Oski Hansen. Here he goes. Oh, that's going to be contact. Thankfully for Blix, they both broke too late, and they both missed the corner effectively. Blix got through on the inside, and actually it's allowed Nicholas Helm, who did get the apex properly, to make benefit here. Outside line. Oh, that's very nice indeed through the left-hander. Very nice from Nicholas Helm. Up into the top 10. Immediate response though from Janssen, as there's contact between Bachmann and Oliver Hagström. Meanwhile, it's all kicking off again through the West Horseshoe. Here comes Helm, picking his his way to the right and then to the left. He can't quite fire down the inside there. Bachmann, though, the pole sitter of this race, is suddenly outside the top 10.
That was a crucial piece of contact for him because look at all of the cars around him. It's not just like he's lost time. He's lost so many positions from this as he tries to get his Lamborghini up to speed. And look at the slipstream that he's got on that inside line. Unfortunately, Hansen not able to do anything as he comes further down. But then the slipstream goes away from him and the Lamborghini is now on the back foot as you come down in towards the braking zone. Who is going to brake later? It does look like it's Bachmann just about to hold on to that position. But you cannot make a single mistake in this series. You just get absolutely swamped by cars behind, and Bachmann just holding on to the top 10.
He is. He's actually regained that top 10 because initially it had been lost from that incident that he had with Oliver Huijsen-Vigezju, who is now 8th in the field. This, meanwhile, is Dahlander versus Janssen, which is now for 10th because Eric Blix has decided to come in and get out of this, and who can blame him either as they go through turn 1. This is going to be a move under from Dahlander on Janssen, and he's going to go through. Is he quite close through the S's on the outside? The two Acuras will go into the corner neck and neck. And it looks like Janssen is going to come out the other side with the position again. So any signs of this slowing down are well absent for now, because the drivers within it are all very willing to battle, unlike what you're seeing out front, where the drivers are very unwilling to do anything in the way of fighting.
Yeah, these guys, they want to have their battles. They want to try and get as much as they can. That McLaren has seen better days. Oh, my word. Front end of that completely destroyed, and the back end as well after the contact previously. But they are continuing on, so maybe the weight reduction actually helping with a bit of speed there. But these guys, they've been going a bit crazy, I'll tell you what, here at Daytona. Especially, I mean, Nico's helm there, the massive send down the inside, trying to follow through on Blix a couple of laps ago. That was crazy. They really just go for everything.
Yeah. I suspect this car hasn't been in since we saw it in the wars earlier. Into pit lane, that is. Since it came in earlier on. Into trouble, I should say. Missing the front end and the rear end from lap 1. And the blessed relief of a pit stop is going to be quite soon, I would imagine. Eric Blix's pit stop, by the way, was 21 seconds. That's around the same as the others, so a little bit longer than the likes of Jos Strauberg, who's got a decent chance of getting right back in the mix here. Certainly back inside the top 20, which is a rescue of a decent day after a difficult start. We'll see where he ends up by the end of this race, but that does suggest a quite significant amount of fuel having to be taken on, as that might be a slowdown for Rosquist. Lucas Pettersson gets through. It is indeed a slowdown for the McLaren. So, as if it's not punishment enough to have most of his body parts missing, he's going to slow down as well. That's Felicity Johansson, meanwhile, being overtaken by Gabriel Norberg. Johansson has not yet made a stop, but Norberg has just this last lap, so that's a bit of a false battle, if you like. And Lucas Pettersson is in as well. Not sure why he's gone straight to the top of the timing. I'm sure that will rectify itself in a moment, but I fear slightly that that's what happens when you slightly miss your pit box and you accidentally tow or something weird, because he's gone straight to the top, which is a bit odd.
Yeah, he's effectively gone a lap ahead, which is weird. You think, worst case, he'd go a lap behind, but actually, I'm sure that will sort itself out. So we are now lap 15. You mentioned earlier about the fuel time. Technically, as they all start with the same amount of fuel, they should all have the same amount to add, because if you stop early, you still add the same amount of fuel, you just have some remaining in the tank as well. So from that side of things, it should be the same. Let's see what happened to Pedersen though. The number 51 machine. It all looks fairly standard at this point. He's going to reverse back.
Oh, no. All right. Well, that looked fine in the end. But
that's a weird one.
That is weird. We'll see at the end. They both made it in quite... not sure Lindqvist made a fully clean entry there with Lindhoff right in behind him, but Bohlin joining him as well. But I felt the only one of the front three not to have come in with them. So let's watch this between Lindhoff and Lindqvist, because they're going to be very, very importantly close together at the end of this pit stop phase. There it is from the air. Here goes Lindhoff, and he's on his way well in front, is it, of Lindqvist? No, Lindqvist is round the corner. He's already gone. Lindqvist, 16.7 seconds in the box. A lot of fuel saving from the driver of that Lamborghini. And that means both Henrik Lindhoff and Marcus Byfeld are in a lot of trouble as far as winning this race goes.
Yeah, it might be a bit of a gamble with how much fuel to take to the end, but I think as well, as you say, it was that fuel saving. He sat in behind for a good 5+ laps once he got into that second place and should be able to hold on. Everyone coming down pit road, so it seems like 15-16 laps was the one for these drivers. Look at pit exit. That is absolutely crazy to see everyone coming in at the same time. I think with it being a longer lap as well, therefore there's more fuel to save to get an extra lap. So it's more likely that everyone pits on the same lap. So definitely interesting one. Cars still coming back out on the track with damage as well. They do not want to have any extra time. They don't want to lose this train and lose the slipstream. They want to be with people. But I'm very interested, what is Byfeld going to do? Does he have any sort of relative to see a quicker pit stop from Lindqvist? Can he do anything in the pit stop to rectify, because it was a 1.5 seconds less stationary time for Lindqvist than basically anyone else.
Yeah, and that's the fuel saving gains. As you were talking about, there's realistically no difference in what these guys should be taking on. They will have started with the most amount of fuel they could have done, and they have the same amount of laps to do. And so, as you say, it should be the same time, but the fuel saving that goes on is so critical around this circuit, and it looks like Lucas Lindqvist has done it better than anybody else. Watch that pit stop time up in the top left here. Byfeld was able to go one lap further than the others, so maybe that's a good sign for him. 16.9 in the box. That's not quite as slow as Lindhoff or indeed most of the rest of the field. So Byfeld's in with a chance here. There's Lindqvist. He's got slowed slightly by another McLaren as well, trying to stay out the way through turn one. He's at least in the game here, Byfeld. He might lose the lead, but he's at least in the conversation. And he's, in fact, he is in the lead. 12 to go, and Marcus Byfeld has somehow led this race for a very long time and saved the fuel required to lead this race at the end of the pit stops.
Because of course he went an extra lap, so he would have had to take a lap less fuel. But also I wonder if he was looking at the numbers, seeing the length of Lindqvist's time. Oh, he's gone deep though. He's gone deep. This might change things if he loses the lead, and he has. Lindqvist goes through. What a gift there from Byfeld on the colder tyres, not able to keep it on the track.
Was that an actual gift or was that tactical? Did Byfeld let Lindqvist through to say, you know, you can lead this time round, but I'm going to pass you to the line? It's certainly more possible in the McLaren than almost any other manufacturer, because that car is very quick in a straight line. Now then, look immediately. He's very quick in a straight line as well, Byfeld, here, by the way, with Lindqvist just in front. The only problem is, of course, he's now got to stay on the back of that Lamborghini for the next 10 laps, which is no easy thing to do.
No, this is going to be an awesome battle, and not only is this a battle for the win today for the feature race, this is a battle for the championship. Byfeld, he has the advantage coming to this round, but he's already lost a good amount of points in that sprint race, and now he doesn't want to lose points again, second race in a row. So Byfeld really needs to beat Lindqvist, and of course today that also means winning this race. He's getting that bump draft. They're easily in a two-way battle, though. They've dropped Lindhoff and Holmer easily. Even Bohlin as well really dropped off 6 seconds off the lead now. So it's just going to be a battle between these two, but he needs to wait for his time to overtake so that he can get back past. Maybe, though, he wants to sit behind, save a bit of fuel in case he's slightly under-fueled as such, to make sure, because, you know, his pit stop was so short, he had to make sure to keep the track position.
Yeah, decent. That's a decent shout, actually. Could be ongoing here as well. As I mentioned before, it's so much about not where you are in the train, but actually what group you're in, and indeed whose slipstream you're in at the end of the pit stop phase. This, meanwhile, is Robin Osland, who's started well down towards the back. He had a bit of a disaster in race one. Now he's up inside the top 20. Yes, he is. He's confirmed that now by holding off Hillestrom and Frisk as well, who goes right into the grass on the outside line, then loses that place to Anders Hillestrom, who goes to 21st. That just in front, by the way, is Joel Stroberg, who started the day third place in the standings. I can't imagine he's going to stay there. Again, two names rising to the fore and are beginning to show us what could be a two-horse race in the GT3 Series 2025. Lucas Lindqvist and Marcus Byfeld 1 and 2 again.
we have a pretty crazy battle. Blixt, Helm, Vigashu and Bachmann all within 1 second for 7th place. That is going to be some spicy racing. I saw them swapping positions. So Blix has got to the front, but in behind, Vigashu and Helm side by side in towards the bus stop. Helm beelines it to the apex, but oh my word, round the outside, the McLaren goes. They give each other enough space. Fair play, but look at the run from Bachmann in behind. He might have the opportunity to get both of them.
Great racing between the two. The respect shown there to go side by side through the bus stop. Fantastic. Bachmann deciding not to take it pretty wide. Instead, he's just going to help Helm. This is NASCAR racing in GT3s at Daytona. And with the inside line, surely Helm and Bachmann are going to have this. Although the McLaren putting up a good fight on the outside, it's not going to get anywhere on its own. And Oliver Hartz-Vigashu has to back out with more joining behind. Dusky Hansen on the outside there. Oh, that's weird. Oliver Hartz-Vigashu does end up in 10th. But this is good racing for 8th place now. Blix seems to be getting away from it, but great racing, especially going side by side through the bus stop. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, Vigashu there, it was in a difficult situation. He was backing out on purpose to, avoid a crash, but therefore he went so slow that it opened the door for further battling with Johansson. Crazy stuff here. Really like to see this continue on throughout the season. Awesome battles. Of course, Daytona is really helping this, but look at the train of cars that we've got. Of course, Enfiden is just in behind, Allender as well. We have seen some swaps up ahead with Bohlin and Holmer. They are changing place, so there's loads of action out there on the track, and of course inside the final 10 laps now, and they need to try and find the positions that they can get to. And for instance, Blixt, he's got a couple of seconds out to Matson. That's really going to be the most that he can do today.
Have a look at this. Lindqvist and Byfeld absolutely nose to tail with 9 laps to go in this race. We are approaching the finale of this round of the championship. It's the Don't Send It Into T1 by Clutch Club Racing round here at Daytona. Thanks to them for sponsoring the round. All 5 rounds, by the way, sponsors this season. To go along with the Area 81 Grand Prix we had at the Hockenheimring only 2 weeks ago. In 2 weeks, by the way, we'll be at Spa live same time here on RaceSpotTV again. That will be rounds 5 and 6, races 5 and 6 of our championship here in the GT3s for Series 2025. There are still 4 NASCAR rounds to go. Don't forget as well as the the Oval Series comes to a conclusion. Traffic, meanwhile, for these two, just up in front of them, I think is Bjorn Broström in number 41. There's been a very good uptake, actually, of those drivers who are laps down. We've still got 43 running. As many as 8 laps down, Pontus Norgren, for example, which is fantastic to see. But there are those who haven't been delayed so much who are still racing pretty hard as well. Robin Osland again, making another place, this time 19th for him in the bright yellow Corvette.
Yeah, certainly sticks out, doesn't it, in the basically default-esque livery on that Corvette. But look at these drivers. They are going for everything. The 74 there. Big send down the inside. That's Hillestrom. And manages to find his way past Tucker Frisk. Loses a lot of time, though, actually, as he work away out onto the back straight. They're just, I think, in slipstream bound of the Clutch Club Mustang. So that's not too bad. But they're just going to be holding on. That's Sebastian Magnussen, the 88 machine that we're looking at. Coming down the back straightaway. Looks like Frisk might be having a half a look down there in towards the bus stop. Up towards the front, though, we're still seeing Byfeld in this situation. They are looking very good on their pace. They're a couple of tenths a lap faster than the car behind of Lindhoff, so they are making it and confirming it a two-way battle. Lindhoff not going to be able to catch up on his own in that situation. But what is Byfeld going to do? Because if he waits to the last lap, that's a bit obvious. But then also, if he tries to get through, then Lindqvist can just come back at him. So it's actually a bit of a difficult situation to be in.
It is really difficult for him, actually. It looks very simple. Stay behind, draft past on the last lap. But there are ways in which you can defend from the front. And, we've seen it done plenty of times before. You can defend from the front at Daytona and hold on for the win. That is not in too much doubt. Coming into this, by the way, they were 10 points apart. Byfeld ahead, but with Lindqvist picking up so many from race 1 compared to Byfeld, I think even if they finish Byfeld in front of Lindqvist, then the 97 is going to be championship leader going into the next round of the championship. We will see on that though at the end of the day as we go back to 7th place. This is probably the best battle on the circuit, to be honest. Nicholas Helm now in front of Eric Blix, who can't seem to get himself out of these battles no matter how hard he tries.
Yeah, I thought Blix was going to be chasing down Madison, but it's actually Helm who's making the moves. He's been so aggressive all evening, and he's got himself to the front of this battle. They've got a couple of seconds, about 3 seconds actually now to Madsen, but look how many cars are within vision, as are all the different chassis as well. We've got Ferraris, got Fords, McLarens, Lamborghinis, all sorts out there, and they are giving us a very varied battle. And let's see what Blix can do. I assume he's actually got some damage because of some contact a little bit earlier, but it doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much. He's in the slipstream of Helm as we come up towards the line. Lap 22 we are going on to, but can Vigaju try anything down in towards turn 1? He's getting very close actually, but no, he's going to be blitzed. Has to break out of that one early before we even get to the kink. Almost a 3-wide situation as Helm goes wide. Up the inside goes Blix. Can he find his way through to the chicane? Yes, he can. I don't think there was contact there. I think that was just Helm running a bit wide.
Yeah, I think they were all just pushing pretty hard, and they ended up getting away. There's certainly contact there as Hagström Vigaju stuffs it down the inside of Nicholas Helm on the outside line. Now he'll have the inside for the fast left-hander. Will that be enough for him to hold on to the place? It should be, but Hagström Vigaju might well stay there. Does he have another look at the West Horseshoe? He certainly does. Behind Backman and Janssen continue side by side, but out front it's Hagström Vigaju who does get 8th place. Maybe now Blix is going to be in the clear, although he's not quite fully there yet. He might well have a chance because of that battle for 8th place behind him.
It's so funny how, we're just mentioning Helm. Oh yeah, he looks like the one to be on top of this situation. Now he drops 2 places and they lose another second to Madsen. It's crazy how these battles swap around so quickly around here with the slipstream effect and how close all of the cars are. Helm definitely looks a bit loose in that Ferrari though. He's had a few wiggles, especially coming through the kink in towards the West Horseshoe. So maybe just a little bit too pointy on that Ferrari for his liking, and just losing some time because of that. So that puts Blix, as you say, in a strong position. He's still got the slipstream now, unfortunately, with Vigaju in behind, just about by a 10th or so. So maybe isn't able to pull away, but look at all of these cars. And of course, Backman there, still inside the top 10, just about.
Just for now. I think, as you said earlier on, it would be a success for him. Even if he would be a loss of positions in the race, it would be a success if he at least holds on to a top 10 place by the end. As Janssen on the inside of Everton keeps 10th for now, 11th rather. And a couple of positions further back, Dallander on the back end of this group again. There's Helm having another look. Looks like he's forced Hagström Vigaju into a bit of a outbreaking himself moment in towards the International Horseshoe, but not decisive enough for him to be able to capitalise. Andreas Backman will close in as a result as well. 5 laps to go at the end of this one, by the way, and they are a good half minute off the leaders, so it's going to come around a lot quicker than you'd expect. And there's a few up ahead as well that could be catchable here. Johnny Madsen and also Eric Blix are still not very far away.
Oh, they're certainly not indeed, and the laps counting down fairly quickly actually. They are going to be feeling a little bit of tension and a little bit of desperation, because with the cars coming in behind you, that almost puts pressure on you to try and make a move forward, because it's either pass or be passed in a situation like this. And we know that the drivers in this series are so aggressive and competitive. It's very easy to get a little bit overwhelmed in certain situations, but it looks like actually Blix, has he pulled away? He's just about a second away from Vigaju, so he might just be out of the slipstream. I have to see. I think Blix actually has a slipstream from the car ahead, and he is catching down Madsen. But there's further battles a little bit further back in the pack though, and this is actually for final points. So points go to P30. So Stiller, who's on the back of that one, is the first driver to not get a point.
I'd imagine he'll be in the points by the end of the day, to be honest. Although he didn't manage it last time, actually, at Hockenheim. I imagine he won't pick up very many points throughout this season, indeed. But you would have thought he'll be able to get ahead of these guys eventually. I do understand why he starts from the pit lane in the Oval Series, but I can't really get my head around doing it here. It just feels like it would put you a lot further down. It actually feels like it puts him in more trouble not qualifying than it keeps him out of trouble. I suppose if he qualified, he'd only be more in the midfield. He'd rather be right at the back, but it gives him so much traffic to work through. Maybe he just wants to have fun overtaking people, and if that's the case, then who can argue with him? But it doesn't seem like it's very productive for him, like it is in the Oval Series, where it actually probably does help him.
I think, oh, that is a huge crash from Neptune. Is he going to avoid the Corvette? He does, and he somehow avoids the barrier. So in the end, it wasn't really a crash, it was more just a spin. But how did we get there? Was there contact, or did he just go a little bit wide? There was another car, and going side by side in that kink is very, very, very difficult indeed. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something. No, just lost the rear end on his own. Lost the rear end on his own, and Stralberg there maybe just not helping the situation.
Yeah, he was hit afterwards by Stralberg, but you're right, he was already going. And Robin Osland for himself off the road to avoid, by the way, here. Great presence of mind by Osland, who saw this going on in his mirrors, and he thought, I've got to get myself ahead of this, got to get myself ahead, and he missed the corner so that he didn't get smacked by the BMW. Great driving from Osland, losing one place, but he'll absolutely take that over being taken out the race.
Oh, for sure. That would have been a huge T-bone incident. But look at this train of cars that we've been following to the lower end of the top 10. Oh my word, we are in for a treat in these final few laps. We have Blixt leading this battle, and of course they're getting up towards Matson as well, who's just up ahead. There's a lapped car in the way as well. Oh god, there's going to be a lot of battling here in the final few laps. Lap 25 of 28 already down the inside. We're going to be seeing, that's actually a back marker on the outside, trying to work his way through, not get too far involved. But this is a very tricky situation with so many cars near each other.
Not sure which of the lap cars it is. It could be Emil Reinbach. He drives a similar Mustang. That was too late on the brakes. Way too late on the brakes there from Edmonton. You could see that coming. He's gone down to the back end of the group after that. Meanwhile, side by side between Bachmann and Johansson. Is it further up ahead? Not sure. Johansson is at least... no, they're not side by side. Oh, Bachmann spins instead. Bachmann's gone for a spin as he was putting the pressure on Johansson there for 10th place. Bachmann has spun, and and he's rejoining rather strangely. Unfortunately, this race now will go down as one he'll be disappointed with, after he was holding on to a top 10 place quite well after starting first. I'm afraid it's unravelled here at the very end.
Certainly has. We've seen 3-4 drivers do that so far this race, so it must be very difficult to get the power down there. Of course, we are in the heat of the day. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the race start, so of course about 2:30 or so now. And we come back to this lead battle. 3 laps to go, including this one. Lindqvist still leading. They're pulled away so much from Lindhoff. 6 seconds. And I remember even Dan Holmer was in for a shout at one point. He's now 12 seconds off the lead. What pace from these two championship contenders. It looks like they're going to be 1-2 and 2-1 in most of the races this year. But let's see how this one continues. Lindqvist has led all of this second stint, though. So he was fuel saving in the first stint. He hasn't been able to do so, whereas Beifeld has. So not that that's really going to help them, because you want to have as little fuel at the end. But I do think Beifeld was doing something on the fuel and is now going to be sat behind, and he's going to be able to go flat out to the end.
Absolutely. We've got 2 laps to go, and now the tactics really begin. I think all of that, fuel game is probably behind them now. The pit stops are forgotten about almost. The early part of the race, where they had to both make overtakes to get to this position, all of that forgotten about. It is about where you are in relation to each other. Do you want to be first or second going on to this last lap? How close do you want to be if you're Beifeld in second here? When do you want to pull past and pull alongside? All of this really needs thinking about, because there are so many points. Even though being in second place here at Daytona onto the last lap is the position where you win most from, there's a lot of positions when you're in second you can still lose from. If he gets a back room through the bus stop, for example, he won't win. If he starts too far behind, 8 or 9 tenths behind, he won't win. If he's too close, if he's this close behind off the bus stop, he won't win either, because he won't have a slingshot, he won't have anywhere to go. There's a real balancing act to be made here, and so don't think this is over with just 2 for the lead and one driver very comfortable sitting in second place and one driver pretty comfortable leading.
The only thing considering now, is I think Lindqvist has that extra tenth of a second that he needs. Byfeld is not all over the back of him, and I wonder, is this just a turn on of the afterburners from Lindqvist with a couple of laps to go? Byfeld is trying to see him going a little bit deep there towards the West Horseshoe. Does Lindqvist have just a little bit left in his locker to be able to defend from the front? He's certainly been very fast indeed. That first sector, he was 4/10 faster as well than Byfeld, so he's looking very strong with a lap and a half to go.
You can't really afford to be that far behind Byfeld either. That's not a great place to find yourself. You're probably right about the extra bit of speed that Lindqvist has got, but is that going to matter in the end? Because that straight before the bus stop there is really helpful for Byfeld. He can get himself into a winning position here as they get onto the penultimate lap. They've got traffic as well, by the way, to negotiate. There's a few cars, not sure they're quite going to get to them because they're about 5 seconds up the road, but there's a bit of a battle going on at the moment for 28th with 4 cars involved. If they get to that, it's going to be a nightmare. This car already laps down, and so he's going to pull out the way without too much of an argument there in the Ford Mustang, so that's all going to be fine. The white flag will be in hand, and there will be 1 lap to go here at Daytona. Marcus Byfeld versus Lucas Lindqvist for the win. Byfeld already sowing the seeds of doubt by going to the outside in towards turn 1.
And I tell you what, actually being further back probably helped him. He got more of a slingshot. He had so much more time in the slipstream. He had the overrun, but not enough to make the move in towards the first corner. Where is his next opportunity? He can send in the West Horseshoe, but then he's leading and he could be overtaken back into the bus stop. But if he doesn't get it at the bus stop, he then has to try and get it to the line, which is such a risk. So he needs to try and time this perfectly.
He certainly does. There's, as we talked about earlier, such a sweet spot in your second place here. That was a bit wide from the West Horseshoe as well from Lindqvist. Now, is that actually going to help him? Because being so far in front, as you said, with Byfeld last time, actually helped the man in second place. Is Lindqvist now close enough to Byfeld to actually prevent him from getting that real slingshot? 3/10 of a second coming in towards the bus stop chicane.
Is it going to be close enough? Once again, being this further back is beneficial for the slipstream. You get more of a run, your overspeed is enough. Is he going to go for it into the bus stop though? He's going to be just on the limit. It doesn't look like it. He's going to have to send it and try and get the run to the line.
Well, he's quite close here. I'd be worried about not getting the slingshot at all here for Byfeld. He's got a decent run out of the bus stop chicane. He's only 2/10 behind. Is this going to be enough now in the McLaren? Can he drag past Lucas Lindqvist? There's going to be a big battle for the line here between these two. Is it going to be Byfeld's second win of the season or Lindqvist's third? He's already alongside NASCAR 3 and 4. Is the McLaren going to have the speed? Oh my goodness, it does! On the outside, can Lindqvist come back again? It doesn't look like it. He'll dive for the line, but Byfeld's going to get it. 0.5 of a second. Marcus Byfeld played it perfectly. His pit stop was short. He'd saved the fuel despite leading most of the race. He got in the slipstream of Lindqvist. He trailed him the whole way round. And at the very last, he passes him on the outside line and he takes his second win of the season.
Timed to perfection. Lindhoff is going to round out the podium. Bohlin in 4th place. Homer is in 5th, but the battles behind continues on. And this is one driver that we've been looking at all day, as well as Emforden. Can he hold it to the line though? He's going to have a huge run on his outside from Forsland, who of course was spun around in that opening race, but the BMW is just going to nose ahead. As we go into the triover though, it's side by side across the line. Who is it going to give that one to? That was an amazing finish at the line. It looks like Forsland by 0.003 of a second just got his front splitter ahead.
And that is, what, 38 places gained? Goodness me. That's a real good second race from Edwin Forsland, that's for sure. As more side-by-side battles over the line. Osland was quite close to overtaking Hillestrøm. That was 73 thousandths. And over the line there was Fredrik Neptun holding on from Jock Frisk by 56 thousandths of a second at the end as well. A couple of photo finishes, but no least for the race lead here. Marcus Byfeld winning by 0.5 over Lucas Lindqvist. With a string of BMWs next, Henrik Lindhoff, Oliver Bohlin and Daniel Harmer. Johnny Matson just finished outside the top 5, although he'll be pleased with that second race for sure. Eric Blix finally got to the front end of that group with the likes of Olo Hodgson, Big Zoo trailing him. Nicholas Helm and Oscar Janssen round out the top 10. Fredrik Dander and Uri Helsing were involved in that battle as well towards the line. We saw Forsland just beat Everton there, 0.003 of a second the gap with Joachim Ulrichsen running up the top 15. Jo Strauberg recovered to 16th after early problems, with Andreas Bachmann falling to 17th after qualifying or starting from pole rather. Anders Hillström, Robin Östlund and Sebastian Magnussen round out the top 20. 21st was Fredrik Neptun, as I just mentioned, ahead of Jock Frist. Gabriel Norberg was involved in that as well. Linus Hellberg and Victor Hammerström round out the top 25. Oliver Rosqvist was next despite his battered car for most of that race. Christoph Gans was 27th, and Luke Pettersson, Thomas Gusterin and Marcus Stiller, who did get the last of the points. That was for Clutch Club Racing, of course. Those outside of the point start with Thomas Kinnell, who was on the lead lap, last driver on the lead lap. Bjorn Broston, Robert Carlson, Christopher Crook, Felicity Janssen and Pontus Redstead finished one lap down. Emil Reinbach, Christopher Dalston, Sebastian Tidmo and Fredrik Forsell rounded out those in the top 40. 41st in the end went to Simon Green. He was 6 laps down, with Christopher Guerrero 7 down. Pontus Norgren did cross the line as well, I believe. So did Skoglund. At least did get back out after earlier problems. Those who didn't finish, though, included Niklas Gran, Oscar Motin, Rickard Allard, Kalle Wallenström, Hacken Schott, Philip Hahn and Lars Reisted as well, who was down towards the back end, not having finished. So, let's have a chat to some of those names who were involved in it all, starting with Lucas Lindqvist, who's already waiting for us. First in race 1, second in race 2. Congratulations, Lucas, on another good evening of racing and a race 1 victory as well. But I want to start with race 2, of course. That run towards the line between yourself and Marcus Byford was fantastic to watch. Tell us what it was like, what you were thinking in those final few laps as you were battling each other for the win.
Yeah, hello guys. I knew it was going to be a super tough one when he was still behind me out of the pits. I was just praying that he was not going to make it on fuel, but sadly wasn't the case. The Lambo just has no pull as soon as you put it in 6th gear, and that's when he just flies past, so I knew it was over pretty early.
Do you feel, looking back, as if there was anything else you could have done from the lead to stop the McLaren from coming through? Because you mentioned the Lamborghini not having much pull in 6th gear. The McLaren certainly does have one of the better straight line speeds as well you were up against.
Yeah, I was thinking about playing some games, maybe slowing down before a bus stop or something, but I'm quite happy with the results this evening, so I'll take this.
Absolutely. It's I reckon just over 90 points you'll get from this, but probably a couple more with bonuses. How do you feel about the championship situation going into Spa in 2 weeks' time? Because you came into today 10 points behind Byfeld. You'll be, I think, ahead of him after tonight, despite him winning that second race. How are you looking at the championship going into those last 3 rounds?
Yeah, I think the last 3 rounds should fit the Lambo a bit better, where I don't have to worry that much about the top speed, especially at Motegi, maybe even at Sebring. So it's looking good, I think.
Well, congratulations on a race victory and a second place here tonight as well in round 2, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucas Lindqvist, there in the race victory for race 1 and in the second place for race 2. At the moment, doesn't look like anybody else is going to join us to have a bit of a chat, but a successful evening for both Lucas Lindqvist, Cam, and also Marcus Byfeld as well, who takes his second race win of the season. A great battle for the win for us to watch as well, but a 2-horse race in the championship, I would say, set up for Spa in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one, and of course another slipstream track there, so let's see if Byfeld and Lindqvist continue on. That's going to be a load of fun in a couple of weeks' time. We're already into April 2025 as this season goes on, and of course we race every single week with the Oval Series coming back next week as well to continue the playoffs.
As you say, it will already be April in 2 weeks. The year's flying by, and so is my whole life. Spa, it is in 2 weeks' time, as you mentioned. The final round of 15 will be coming up on the Oval Series in 1 week's time, so make sure you join us here on RaceSpotTV for that as well. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Cam Roger tonight with Hugo Louise behind the cameras of this Bohlin Svenska Eracingligan GT3 Series round from Daytona. We'll see you again in the GT3 Series in 2 weeks, and we'll see you in the Oval Series next week. But from all of us here at Daytona, it's goodbye for now.